Tyrese Proctor becomes the fifth Duke Blue Devil drafted in this season's rendition of the NBA draft. I'm used to it. I'm emotionally numb. It's whatever. Let's move past it. I know Proctor was someone who you and I were both high on in terms of his ability to stick in the league. He feels very safe because of the size, the defense, the spot up shooting. He's not going to hurt you when he's on the floor. And he can be that secondary playmaker. He's shown flashes throughout his career of being able to play out of ball screens, and he lands with the Cleveland Cavaliers team that, dare I say, had a similar collapse in the NBA playoffs that Duke did in the Final Four. Sorry, I had to throw one barb in there. But a Cavs team that was really, really good this past year that is probably taking a step back and thinking, okay, how do we prevent that from happening again? What do you want the Cavaliers fans out there to know about Tyrese Proctor and how might he fit on this roster?
I'm not saying this for just to say it. This isn't like I know a lot of people say like, oh, I have a lot of hot takes. I don't think this is a hot take personally. Like I know sometimes, you know, this is entertainment. We say stuff to be funny, right? I'm not being funny with this by any means. After Cooper Flag, if you're a contender, Tyrese Proctor is the best Duke player that's been picked in this draft for you.
Oh, I'll say that one more time.
If you are a contender in the NBA, Tyrese Proctor, besides Cooper Flag, was the best player that could be picked for you right now and long term. And let me paint this picture for you. Love Khan's game. Love Khan's game. He needs the ball in his hands. Tyrese doesn't. I love Man Man. Man Man has a lot of development to do. Tyrese doesn't. Day one, Tyrese Proctor is an elite level defender at 6'5" that shot 40% from three last year. I look at a Cavs team that has dangled Darius Garland. You now have a reason to trade Darius Garland. If you
Okay, that's a bridge too far, but continue.
No, I don't think so because if Giannis becomes available and you can go get Giannis with like some type of Garland package, Donovan Mitchell can play point. Like that's the whole idea behind it, right? Like that's why they're making Garland available. Let's go get a player on the wing that can play next to Donovan Mitchell, but who also can play next to Donovan Mitchell, guard the opponent's best man, play off ball, handle the ball if you need him to when Donovan gets in foul trouble, or if Donovan just like is struggling that day. That's Tyrese Proctor. Tyrese Proctor fills every single hole that an NBA contender is looking for, all the way down to IQ too. He's never going to make a bad play. He's never going to make a mistake, right? This is a guy that for the Cleveland Cavaliers is that stabilizer that they were missing. When they played the Pacers and they would go down, the Pacers would go on runs. They had nobody to hit a shot. Who
Hmm.
hit every big shot for Duke this year? It wasn't Coop. It wasn't Khan. I mean, respectfully, it wasn't Man. It was Tyrese Proctor every single time. And he did it without having the ball in his hands as much as the others, right? And I think that's important. I say this a lot. The most important thing when drafting, specifically in the second round, outside the lotto, is picking guys who you know can play what you want them to do. The role Tyrese Proctor is going to play in the NBA, he just played for a year.
Hmm.
We saw him do it. We saw him do it at a high level. He doesn't have to do anything different. The lights are brighter, sure. Crowds are a little bigger, sure. Tyrese Proctor is going to fear nothing at the next level. That's a dog. He has it in him. He's going to be ready from day one. Like I don't know that I think the role is 100% there for him in Cleveland yet.
Hmm.
Yet. Do not be surprised if Cleveland makes the role ready for him because they can go trade Garland to go get something, right? Like they now have maybe the best trade piece in the league that's available that they can go get something on the wing, a secondary scorer next to Donovan. They can play a role player next to Donovan. They can have Evan Mobley, who's a defensive player of the year candidate. They have DeAndre Hunter. This team's going to be very, very good next year. And even if Garland's on the team, by the way, you stagger Garland and Mitchell's minutes. Who is better to play next to both of them while you stagger their minutes?
I mean, I guess it makes sense. I think he will be a longtime NBA player, and I think he will almost exclusively be asked to just play defense and knock down spot up threes, which he'll be really good at. I will say, I agree with you for a team like the Cavs that already has its superstar in place with Mitchell, that has a good grasp on what its roles are supposed to be, with when it comes to Evan Mobley as well, who's the clear number two, and then you have someone like Isaac Okoro who's in there to cause chaos on kind of both ends of the floor. This year they relied too much on Ty Jerome. He probably won't be back in free agency, I would assume, just with like his disappearing act in the playoffs, but nice way to rejuvenate his career. I guess I could see where the ceiling for Proctor ends up being something like a better version of Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome with better defense. Is that fair to say, Dion?
I think he's better than Ty Jerome in a lot of things. I think you're selling. I think you're selling him too short.
I
I
think you're
really
selling
do.
Jerome a little bit short. Jerome's like even looking at the my biggest critique for Proctor, even as someone who buys his NBA staying power, let's say, he never gets to the free throw line, which for someone of his height, it's like how it's his free throw rate is like comically bad for his size. Then again, I just looked it up. His free throw rate was almost identical to Ty Jerome's last year at Virginia, but so maybe there's some similarities there because I that's one thing. And even in terms of being a secondary playmaker, you didn't really see that at all. I don't want to say at all. It's just the assist numbers weren't where you'd want them to be. Like I would prefer for him to be a little bit more dynamic. Give
But we
him,
don't need him to do any of those things.
I guess
Like
that's fair.
you said, he's only going to be asked to play defense and shoot the ball. Would you consider like if you had to rate out of like a grade school scale, A plus being the highest, F being the lowest, how would you rate him at those two things?
At spot up shooting and
Spot
defense.
up shooting, a singular grade, defense, another singular grade.
I mean, spot up shooting this past year was an A. For the breadth of his whole career, probably closer to a B.
That's fair.
But I think he was a reclass freshman. That's an important piece to this. He was super young when he started his career at Duke. The defensive side of things, I always thought the reputation exceeded who he was as a player until this year when he truly was locked down. Like his development this past year was something special. I guess that would get me to my other pushback that really just hit me as we're hashing this out. There's probably a little bit of fear that like did the defense look this much better? Did the spot up shooting look this much better just because you had a generational talent and flag on both ends of the court setting you up, and then an enormous rim protector and Malawach as the safety net? I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think when you look at how this Duke team as a whole, some of the defenders looked much better in the system, but Tyrese truly was a take you out of rhythm. He could pick you up 94 feet if you needed, if Duke needed him to, and he would keep you from getting in your action in the front court. Or excuse me, he would keep you from getting into your action in the half court even before you had a chance to get your shot packed by either Flag or Malawach. So that's where I do buy the defensive leap here. So yeah, this past season I would give him an A at both of those skills.
Well, I think in general, I'll go based off what you said. What you said, like his overall grades are for his career. I believe you gave him B for shooting. Was it the same for defense?
Probably B for shooting, B for defense. Yeah.
If you're a B level defender, B level shooter, you're going to make close to nine figures in the NBA. That's above average at the two most important things you can do as a role player,
It's a good
right?
point.
I say it all the time. OG Anunoby just got 200 some odd million dollars. Mikal Bridges at one point, it was like 4 years, like 120,
Mhm.
right? Like I do think those guys' games are like more advanced than Tyrese Proctor's will ever be. But I mean, Andrew Nemhard also just got like 50, $60 million. I don't think he's any more than a B on both ends of the floor in those aspects too, right? So I think if you look at Jalen Suggs got 150 for doing those two things, by the way. Like now I do believe he does them better than Proctor. But the point is if you do those two things at an above average level, you play a long time in the NBA, you make a lot of money. Those are the two things you want to do. And the reason I that it is that case is because you mentioned like yeah, he was a better defender and shooter because he had talent around him. That's what he's going to have every single year in the NBA.
Right.
You're always
Right.
going to have a rim protector. You're always going to have like a superstar on your team for the most part. You know what I mean? Especially when you're the player he is. He's going to Cleveland. He got to play with Cooper Flag. That's sick. Now he's playing with Donovan Mitchell. He got to play with Man Man. That's sick. Now he has Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley would have or did he win Defensive Player of the Year?
He might have, yeah. I think he
I
did.
think he did win Defensive Player of the Year. My Defensive Player of the Year was Wembanyama, but he unfortunately didn't get to play the rest of the year. But like he's going to play with one of the best rim protectors in the league. He's going to play with one of the biggest buckets in the league. Like those talents are still around him. So if he was only that player because of who was around him, that's just who he is now because
Yeah.
he's always got those players around him.
All right, you sold me. I'll stop playing devil's advocate. This is a great fit. Ideal situation for Tyrese, ideal situation for the Cavs. Kobe Altman knocking it out of the park. Yet again, done a great job with this roster. And hopefully the Cavs bounce back. I love this storyline. I want to see them succeed. And sounds like their fan base wants a tall guard, and they got one.